The moment a billionaire chooses money over the woman carrying his children, his empire is already dying. The crystal chandelier light shimmered across the grand ballroom of the Sterling Regency Hotel while senators, CEOs, and old money investors raised champagne glasses worth more than most Americans made in a month. But none of them noticed the young woman standing quietly near the marble staircase with one protective hand resting over her 7-month pregnant belly until the lawyer cleared his throat and changed everything. Evelyn Harper Sterling wore a soft ivory gown that flowed gently around the curve of her stomach, the fabric moving every time the twins kicked beneath it like they already understood the tension filling the room. At 28 years old, she had the kind of beauty people remembered long after she left a room, not loud beauty, not artificial beauty, but warmth, grace, and calm wrapped together in one woman who had spent her entire life being adored by the Harper family. Her father once said Evelyn could stop a war just by smiling at the right person. Tonight, however, she was not smiling. Across the ballroom stood her husband, Alexander Sterling, billionaire heir to Sterling Global, the man financial magazines called the youngest corporate genius in New York. His tuxedo fit perfectly. His posture remained flawless. But his attention was not on his wife. It was on the blonde woman standing beside him with a hand resting lightly against his arm as if she already belonged there. Chloe Bennet smiled like a woman who knew a secret no one else in the room could survive hearing. Evelyn felt the twins move again, stronger this time, and slowly lifted her gaze toward Alexander. He did not look away from Chloe. Not once. The orchestra continued playing soft piano beneath the low murmur of billionaire conversations while waiters carried silver trays through the crowd, but the atmosphere shifted the second family attorney Richard Lawson opened the leather folder in his hands. As requested by the late Theodore Sterling, he announced carefully, the inheritance clause regarding future heirs will now be formally confirmed before the board. Silence spread instantly. Even the glasses stopped clinking. Alexander finally turned toward the stage. Evelyn watched the muscles in her husband's jaw tighten for less than a second before his expression returned to perfect control. Only biological children born within a legal marriage, the attorney continued, will inherit controlling shares of Sterling Global. Several board members exchanged glances. Cameras from business reporters flashed across the ballroom. And then every eye slowly moved toward Evelyn's stomach. The Sterling twins. The future of a billion-dollar dynasty. Evelyn swallowed carefully as unease crawled through her chest like ice water. Because suddenly Chloe Bennet was smiling wider. Too wide. As if the announcement had confirmed part of a plan already in motion. Alexander crossed the ballroom at last, his polished shoes echoing softly against marble floors until he stopped beside Evelyn. But instead of touching her hand or asking if she was all right, his voice came low and distant. You should probably head upstairs and rest, he said. Rest. Not congratulations. Not reassurance. Not love. Evelyn looked into her husband's gray eyes, searching for the man who once kissed her forehead during thunderstorms and whispered that she was his entire world. Tonight, she found only calculation. Then Chloe lifted her champagne glass and quietly said something that made Alexander freeze completely. Evelyn could not hear the words, but she saw the color leave her husband's face. And for the very first time since becoming Mrs. Sterling, Evelyn Harper felt something far more dangerous than heartbreak. She felt afraid. Evelyn could still hear the lawyer's words echoing through the ballroom long after the conversation around her resumed in forced polite whispers. Legal heirs. Controlling shares. Sterling Global. The twins shifted beneath her gown again, one pressing sharply against her ribs as if reacting to the tension she was trying so desperately to hide. She slowly inhaled the scent of expensive perfume, candle wax, and aged whiskey floating through the room while cameras flashed against crystal walls and New York's elite pretended not to stare at the billionaire couple suddenly standing in complete silence. Alexander adjusted the cuff of his tuxedo with mechanical precision, the same habit he had whenever something slipped beyond his control. Evelyn noticed because she had spent 3 years memorizing every version of him. The charming husband who cooked pancakes on Sunday mornings. The ambitious executive who stayed awake until 3 in the morning studying market reports. The exhausted man who once rested his head against her stomach and whispered promises to unborn children he claimed would change his life forever. But tonight there was another version standing in front of her. Cold. Distracted. Almost nervous. Chloe Bennet stepped closer beside him, her silver dress catching the chandelier light like broken ice. "The board members are asking questions already," she said softly, though her eyes remained fixed on Evelyn. "You should handle this carefully, Alexander." Carefully. The word landed strangely. Like a warning disguised as concern. Evelyn folded her hands over her stomach protectively and forced herself to smile at a passing investor who congratulated her on the twins before moving away again. The second the man disappeared into the crowd, Evelyn lowered her voice. "Why does she sound like she knows something I do not?" Alexander's expression tightened instantly. "Do not start this tonight." Not denial. Not reassurance. Evelyn felt her heartbeat quicken beneath the pressure of growing fear. "You have barely looked at me all evening," she whispered. "And every time that woman speaks, you stop breathing." Alexander glanced toward the reporters gathering near the stage. "This is not the place." "Then when is the place?" Her voice cracked despite her effort to stay calm. "Because I am carrying your children, Alexander. I deserve honesty." For one brief second guilt flashed across his face so quickly she almost imagined it. Then Chloe's phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen and smiled faintly before turning it toward Alexander. Evelyn saw only a reflection of black text against white light, but whatever message appeared there drained the remaining color from her husband's face. "Excuse us," Alexander said abruptly. Chloe followed him toward a private hallway near the ballroom elevators without another word. Evelyn stood frozen beneath the chandeliers while laughter and piano music continued around her as if the world had not just shifted beneath her feet. She watched Alexander disappear behind the hallway doors with another woman, while his pregnant wife remained alone in the center of his family gala. A waiter approached carefully with sparkling water. "Mrs. Sterling, are you all right?" Evelyn blinked twice before accepting the glass. "Of course." The lie tasted bitter. Across the room she spotted her father William Harper speaking quietly with attorney Rebecca Lawson near the edge of the ballroom. William's sharp blue eyes immediately found his daughter. He knew her too well. One glance at Evelyn's face and he was already walking toward her. "Sweetheart," he said gently. "What happened?" Evelyn tried to answer calmly, but emotion tightened painfully in her throat. "Something is wrong." William glanced toward the hallway where Alexander had vanished. His jaw hardened almost immediately. "Did he say something to you?" "No," Evelyn whispered. "That is the problem. He says almost nothing anymore." The twins kicked suddenly, harder than before, and Evelyn pressed a trembling hand against her stomach as discomfort rolled through her lower back. Rebecca Lawson noticed instantly. "How long have you been standing?" she asked. "Too long," William answered for her. "You should go upstairs and rest for a few minutes." Evelyn nodded slowly even though unease clawed through her chest stronger with every passing second. As she moved toward the elevators, she glanced once more toward the private hallway. The doors had reopened. Chloe emerged first, adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Alexander followed several steps behind her, looking pale and furious. Then Evelyn noticed something that made her stomach turn cold. Chloe was smiling directly at her. Not politely. Not kindly. It was the smile of someone who believed she had already won. The private elevator doors closed behind Evelyn with a soft metallic sound that somehow felt louder than the entire ballroom downstairs. She leaned back carefully against the mirrored wall of the elevator suite, one hand gripping the polished gold railing while the other remained over her stomach as the twins shifted restlessly beneath her gown. Her reflection stared back at her from every angle. Pale face. Shaking hands. Eyes filled with questions she was suddenly terrified to ask. The penthouse level opened into silence. No orchestra music. No reporters. No fake smiles. Just the quiet hum of expensive air conditioning and the distant sound of rain beginning to hit the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Evelyn slowly walked through the sterling private residence above the hotel ballroom, her heels sinking softly into cream-colored carpet imported from Italy, the same carpet Alexander once joked was worth more than his first apartment. Everything around her screamed wealth and power. The grand piano near the fireplace. The massive oil paintings lining the walls. The city skyline glowing beneath storm clouds outside the glass. Yet for the first time since moving into the penthouse, none of it felt safe anymore. Evelyn reached the nursery doors and paused. 2 cribs sat side by side beneath soft, golden lighting. Tiny cashmere blankets folded perfectly. Stuffed elephants waiting in the corner. Alexander had personally chosen the wallpaper 6 months earlier after insisting their sons deserved a room fit for future kings. The memory made her chest tighten painfully. Because somewhere between then and now, her husband had become a stranger. She lowered herself carefully into the rocking chair beside the window and closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the rain tapping against glass while the twins moved beneath her ribs. "I know something is wrong too," she whispered softly to them. "I can feel it." Her phone vibrated suddenly against the armrest. Unknown number. Evelyn hesitated before answering. "Hello?" For 2 seconds there was only silence. Then a woman's voice spoke quietly. "You should not trust your husband tonight." Evelyn straightened immediately. "Who is this?" "Someone trying to help you before it is too late." The line crackled softly. "Check." Alexander's office. The drawer behind the whiskey cabinet. The call disconnected. Evelyn stared at the phone in shock while thunder rolled somewhere over the city. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Behind the whiskey cabinet. She should have ignored it. Any reasonable person would have. But fear has a strange way of pulling people toward answers they are not ready to survive. Evelyn slowly stood and made her way down the dim hallway toward Alexander's private office. The door was partially open. Inside, warm amber lighting illuminated dark oak bookshelves and framed magazine covers featuring Alexander beside headlines calling him America's youngest billionaire visionary. Evelyn swallowed hard and walked toward the built-in whiskey cabinet near the far wall. Her hands trembled as she reached behind the expensive crystal bottles. Her fingers brushed against something metal. A hidden latch. The panel clicked open quietly. Inside rested a black folder stamped confidential. Evelyn's pulse quickened instantly. She opened it carefully. Divorce documents. Her breath caught. Filed 3 weeks earlier. Her eyes scanned the pages in disbelief while the twins shifted sharply beneath her gown. Temporary custody proposals. Financial separation clauses. Asset protection agreements. And then she saw the line that nearly stopped her breathing completely. Pending paternity verification regarding unborn twins. Evelyn stared at the words as if they belonged to someone else's nightmare. Paternity verification. Alexander was questioning whether the babies were his. A cold wave of shock swept through her body so violently she had to grip the edge of the desk for balance. "You were not supposed to find that." Evelyn spun around at the sound of Alexander's voice. He stood in the doorway, rainwater darkening the shoulders of his tuxedo from where he had apparently stepped onto the terrace outside. His face looked exhausted. Cornered. But not surprised. That hurt the most. Slowly Evelyn lifted the documents with trembling fingers. "Tell me this is not real." Alexander said nothing. The silence answered for him. Tears burned instantly behind Evelyn's eyes. "After everything, after these babies." Her voice broke. "You think I betrayed you?" Alexander finally stepped into the office, tension radiating from every movement. "It is not that simple." "Then explain it to me." Her breathing became uneven. "Because right now it feels very simple." Another flash of lightning illuminated the room through the glass walls behind them, and in that bright white second Evelyn noticed something she had completely missed before. Chloe Bennet was standing outside on the terrace watching them through the rain. Rain rolled down the massive glass windows in silver streams while thunder trembled over Manhattan like distant warning drums, and for a long moment nobody inside Alexander Sterling's office moved at all. Evelyn stood frozen beside the desk, clutching divorce papers against her chest, while the twins shifted uneasily beneath her gown, and outside on the terrace Chloe Bennet remained perfectly still beneath the dim terrace lights, her silhouette sharp against the storm like someone watching the final act of a play she had already rehearsed. Alexander slowly exhaled and loosened the tension in his jaw, but his eyes never reached Evelyn's face. "You should not have opened that folder," he said quietly. Evelyn let out a stunned laugh that sounded closer to heartbreak than amusement. "That is your concern right now?" Her voice trembled despite every effort to steady it. "Not the fact that your pregnant wife just discovered you plan to divorce her before your sons are even born?" Alexander finally stepped farther into the office, his polished shoes crossing dark hardwood floors while lightning flashed across the skyline behind him. "I was trying to protect the company." Evelyn stared at him in disbelief. "From me?" "From uncertainty." The word hit harder than shouting ever could. Evelyn's breathing became shallow as she looked down at the papers again. Paternity verification. Legal separation. Custody negotiations. Every page felt colder than the last. "You really think these babies might not be yours?" she whispered. Alexander looked away first. That tiny movement shattered something inside her completely. The twins kicked sharply beneath her stomach as if reacting to the rising panic flooding her body. Evelyn pressed a trembling hand against the silk fabric of her gown and slowly backed away from him. 3 years, she said softly. 3 years together, and you believe another person over me. It is not about belief. Then what is it about? Her voice cracked louder this time. Because downstairs you stood beside another woman while lawyers announced our children would inherit billions of dollars, and suddenly I find secret divorce documents hidden in your office. Alexander ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration finally breaking through his carefully controlled expression. You do not understand how dangerous this has become. Evelyn blinked through gathering tears. Then explain it to me, because all I see is a husband who stopped protecting his family. Thunder shook the windows again. Outside on the terrace, Chloe slowly lifted a champagne glass to her lips without breaking eye contact with Evelyn. That smile returned. Calm. Patient. Almost satisfied. Evelyn felt ice spread through her chest. Why is she here? She whispered. Alexander remained silent for 1 second too long. That was all Evelyn needed. Oh my God! She stepped backward again. You brought her upstairs. Evelyn, into our home. Her voice dropped lower now, quieter somehow, which frightened Alexander more than yelling would have. Into the same place where our babies sleep. The office suddenly felt too small, too warm, too suffocating. Evelyn turned away from him and tried to steady her breathing while rain hammered against the glass harder and harder outside. Then another sharp pain tightened across her lower abdomen. She froze instantly. Alexander noticed immediately. What is wrong? Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. Nothing. But the pressure came again, stronger this time, wrapping painfully across her stomach and lower back. Fear flashed across Alexander's face for the first time that night. He moved toward her quickly. Evelyn! She flinched away before he could touch her. The reaction stunned both of them. Silence filled the office. Heavy. Terrible. Evelyn looked at the man standing in front of her and realized something that hurt more than the divorce papers ever could. She no longer felt safe with him. Another contraction rolled through her body, and she gripped the edge of the desk tightly while trying not to panic. Alexander immediately reached for his phone. I am calling the doctor. Do not. Evelyn's voice came out weak but firm. I do not want Chloe anywhere near me. Alexander frowned. What does Chloe have to do with your doctor? Evelyn slowly lifted her eyes toward him. Because she was at my appointment last week. Alexander's expression changed instantly. What? She knew details about my pregnancy she should not know. Evelyn swallowed painfully. She even knew one of the twins has a mild heartbeat irregularity. For the first time all night, genuine shock crossed Alexander Sterling's face. And outside on the terrace, Chloe Bennet slowly stopped smiling. The silence inside the office collapsed instantly after Evelyn's words. Rain slammed harder against the glass walls while thunder rolled over Manhattan, but Alexander Sterling heard only one thing repeating inside his mind. Chloe knew about the babies. Details nobody outside their medical team should have known. His face darkened immediately as he turned toward the terrace doors where Chloe still stood beneath the dim lights overlooking the city skyline. For the first time that evening, uncertainty flickered across her expression. Small. Fast. But real. Alexander moved toward the doors and slid them open sharply. Cold rain swept into the office carrying the scent of wet concrete and storm air. "How do you know about my son's medical records?" His voice came low and controlled, the dangerous kind of calm built from years of boardroom wars and billion-dollar negotiations. Chloe blinked once before setting down her champagne glass. "I have no idea what she is talking about." Evelyn remained beside the desk gripping the edge tightly while another wave of pressure rolled through her lower back. She tried to breathe slowly through it, but fear was beginning to spread faster than pain. The twins shifted restlessly beneath her gown as though reacting to every raised heartbeat around them. "Do not lie to me tonight," Alexander said. "Not tonight." Chloe crossed her arms against the rain and tilted her head slightly. "You are letting an emotional pregnant woman manipulate you." The sentence landed like poison in the room. Evelyn lowered her eyes for one painful second, and Alexander noticed immediately. Something inside him tightened hard. Because once upon a time, nobody spoke to Evelyn Harper that way in his presence. Nobody. William Harper used to joke that his daughter had been protected like crown jewels her entire life. Family dinners revolved around her laughter. Her brothers screened every boyfriend before college dances. Even their household staff adored her because she remembered birthdays, names, children, anniversaries. Evelyn was warmth. Light. The kind of woman strangers trusted instinctively. Somewhere along the way Alexander had forgotten that protecting her was once the most natural thing he had ever done. Chloe stepped closer beneath the terrace lights. "Alexander, think carefully before you destroy everything because of paranoia." "Paranoia?" His voice sharpened. "You knew private medical information about my children." Chloe's expression remained perfectly composed, but Evelyn noticed her fingers tightening around the stem of the champagne glass. Tiny details mattered when people started losing control. "Your assistant mentioned the appointment last week," Chloe answered smoothly. "That is all." "My assistant does not know about the heartbeat irregularity," Alexander replied instantly. Silence. Lightning flashed white across the skyline behind them. Chloe looked away first. That was enough. Evelyn suddenly felt another sharp tightening across her stomach, stronger than before, and inhaled sharply through her teeth. Alexander turned immediately. "Evelyn?" She tried to straighten herself. "I am fine." But she was not fine. The room felt warmer now. Too warm. The lights too bright. Her heartbeat too fast. Rebecca Lawson's warning from months ago echoed in her memory. Stress could trigger complications with twin pregnancies. Avoid emotional shocks whenever possible. Too late for that now. Alexander moved toward her again more carefully this time. "Sit down." Evelyn hesitated before allowing him to guide her gently toward the leather sofa near the fireplace. The smallest touch from him still carried familiarity, and somehow that hurt even more after everything she had discovered tonight. Alexander crouched beside her, concern finally breaking fully through his controlled billionaire mask. "Tell me exactly what happened at that appointment." Evelyn stared at the rain streaking down the windows while trying to steady her breathing. "I arrived early because the doctor wanted additional scans." Her voice sounded distant now, almost exhausted. "When I walked into a hallway outside imaging, Chloe was already there talking to someone from the clinic." Alexander frowned deeply. "Why would she even be there? I thought maybe it was coincidence." Evelyn swallowed carefully. "But after my appointment she approached me in the parking garage." Alexander's jaw tightened. "What did she say?" Evelyn looked directly at him for the first time since finding the divorce papers. She asked whether I was scared one of the twins might not survive the pregnancy. The office went completely silent. Even Chloe stopped moving outside on the terrace. Alexander slowly stood to his full height and turned toward her again, rainwater dripping from the open terrace doorway onto the hardwood floors. His face no longer looked uncertain. It looked furious. "Tell me the truth right now," he said coldly. "What exactly have you been doing behind my back?" And this time, even Chloe Bennet finally looked afraid. Chloe Bennet stood motionless beneath the rain-soaked terrace lights while Manhattan glittered behind her like a city built entirely from secrets. For the first time since Evelyn Harper entered the gala that evening, the woman who always looked perfectly composed seemed unable to predict what would happen next. Alexander Sterling's voice cut through the storm cold and sharp. "Answer me." Chloe slowly set her champagne glass onto the terrace railing before stepping back inside the office, her heels clicking softly against hardwood floors still damp from the rain blowing through the open doors. "You are overreacting," she said. Carefully. "I was trying to help." "Help?" Alexander stared at her in disbelief. "You approached my pregnant wife outside a private medical appointment and discussed confidential information about my children." Chloe crossed her arms tightly. "Because somebody needed to tell her the truth." Evelyn looked up instantly from the sofa near the fireplace. "What truth?" Chloe hesitated. "Tiny mistake. Tiny crack." Alexander noticed it immediately. "What did you mean by that?" Chloe exhaled slowly as if calculating how much damage control remained possible. "Your board has been investigating the inheritance clause for months," she said. "There were rumors about paternity concerns before I ever got involved." Evelyn felt the blood drain from her face. "Rumors?" Chloe glanced toward her. "Do not act surprised. Billion-dollar families survive on paranoia." Alexander stepped forward, dangerously calm now. "Who started the rumors?" Silence again. Outside, thunder rolled heavily across the skyline while rain streaked down the glass walls like silver tears. Evelyn suddenly remembered every strange moment from the last 2 months. Alexander canceling dinners without explanation. Board members whispering during charity events. Investors studying her stomach before quickly looking away. The sudden requests for additional legal reviews around the trust fund. She had thought it was stress from the merger. She had been wrong. "Someone accessed medical records connected to the pregnancy," Chloe admitted quietly. "Anonymous emails were sent to board members suggesting one of the twins might not be biologically related to the Sterling family." Evelyn felt physically sick. "That is insane." Alexander's expression hardened instantly. "Who sent them?" Chloe looked away. Wrong move again. Alexander saw everything now. "Chloe." His voice dropped lower. "Tell me the truth before I find it myself." For several seconds she said nothing. Then finally, quietly, she answered. "Your grandfather's board advisors approached me months ago." Evelyn stared at her in shock. "What?" Chloe looked toward the city lights beyond the windows. "They believed Evelyn's pregnancy made the company vulnerable. Sterling Global stock depends heavily on the future heir narrative." Alexander's face darkened with fury. "So they used you?" Chloe laughed bitterly. "Please. They did not need to force me." The confession settled over the office like ice water. Evelyn pressed both hands protectively over her stomach while the twins shifted hard beneath the silk gown. "You helped spread lies about my children?" Chloe's eyes flashed toward her. "Do you have any idea what kind of world billion-dollar dynasties create? Nobody trusts love. Nobody trusts marriage. They trust bloodlines and contracts." Evelyn swallowed painfully. "And what exactly did you get in return?" Chloe held Alexander's gaze now. A board seat. Influence. Security. The answer seemed to hit Alexander harder than Evelyn expected. Not because he loved Chloe. Evelyn suddenly realized that part clearly. No. He looked devastated because he had finally understood how deeply his own world had poisoned everything around him. Every relationship. Every promise. Every person. Another wave of pain tightened sharply through Evelyn's abdomen, and she inhaled unevenly. Rebecca Lawson's warning echoed in her memory again. Stress is dangerous with twins. Avoid emotional shocks. Too late. Alexander turned instantly toward her. We are done with this conversation. He reached for his phone again. I am calling Dr. Whitmore now. Chloe's expression changed immediately. No. Both Evelyn and Alexander looked at her. Too fast. Too emotional. Another mistake. Alexander slowly lowered the phone from his ear. Why not? Chloe's face paled slightly beneath the office lighting. Because. She stopped herself. Evelyn's heartbeat quickened violently. Because what? Chloe looked trapped now. Truly trapped. Then quietly, almost whispering, she said the words that changed everything. Because Dr. Whitmore is the one who gave me the records. Silence crashed through the office. Complete. Terrible. Evelyn stared at her doctor's name in stunned disbelief, while the storm outside shook the windows again. Dr. Michael Whitmore had delivered half the children born into New York's wealthiest families. He had attended their baby shower. Smiled during ultrasounds. Reassured Evelyn every month that her sons were healthy. Alexander's face turned dangerously still. You are lying. Chloe shook her head slowly. He said one of the twins showed markers that could create questions later during inheritance review. He thought the board deserved transparency before the babies were born. Evelyn felt tears rise instantly. My God! But Chloe's next words were even worse. Alexander, your doctor was not the first person who questioned the paternity. Then she looked directly at Evelyn. Your husband asked for the investigation first. Evelyn felt the world around her go strangely quiet after Chloe's final sentence, as if the storm outside Manhattan had somehow entered the room and swallowed every remaining sound. Your husband asked for the investigation first. The words echoed through her chest harder than thunder. Harder than betrayal. Harder than fear. Alexander Sterling stood completely still near the rain-covered terrace doors, his face pale beneath the dim amber office lights while silence stretched between them like broken glass no one dared touch. Evelyn slowly turned toward him, both hands protectively resting over the twins moving beneath her silk gown. Tell me she is lying. Her voice came out soft. Fragile. That frightened Alexander more than screaming would have. He opened his mouth once, then stopped. Another terrible answer. Evelyn's eyes filled instantly. Oh my God! Alexander stepped toward her quickly. Evelyn, listen to me carefully. Did you do it? She whispered. Did you ask them to investigate our children? Rain hammered against the windows while lightning flashed white across the office walls. Alexander ran a hand over his face like a man watching his entire life collapse in slow motion. The board pressured me after my grandfather died, he admitted quietly. They said rumors were already spreading. Evelyn stared at him in disbelief. And instead of protecting me, you investigated me. I was trying to stop the board from tearing this family apart. By helping them question my babies? Tears slid down Evelyn's cheeks now, but she no longer bothered wiping them away. Do you understand what you have done to me? Alexander's voice lowered desperately. Nothing was proven. Because there was nothing to prove. Her words cracked through the room sharper than thunder. Chloe watched silently near the fireplace now, but for the first time since entering the Sterling world, Evelyn no longer saw her as the real danger. No. The real danger was what power had turned Alexander into. A man so afraid of losing control that he stopped trusting the one person who had never betrayed him. Another painful tightening spread across Evelyn's stomach, suddenly stronger than before, and she inhaled sharply while gripping the sofa arm for support. Alexander moved instantly. That is it. We are going to the hospital. No. Evelyn stood carefully despite the pain. I do not want your doctors near me anymore. Evelyn, please. The desperation in his voice sounded real now. Too late. She looked directly into his eyes through tears and heartbreak and exhaustion. You let strangers question whether I deserved to carry your name while I was carrying your children. Alexander swallowed hard. I made mistakes. Mistakes? Evelyn laughed weakly through tears. A mistake is forgetting flowers on an anniversary, Alexander. You investigated the mother of your sons like she was a criminal. Silence fell again. Heavy. Final. Then suddenly the office doors burst open and William Harper strode inside with Rebecca Lawson beside him, both having clearly rushed upstairs after hearing raised voices from staff outside. William stopped immediately when he saw his daughter crying. The atmosphere in the room told him everything before anyone spoke. His expression darkened with terrifying calm. What happened? Evelyn tried to answer, but emotion closed around her throat too tightly. Rebecca noticed the documents scattered across the desk, Chloe standing near the fireplace, Alexander's shattered expression, and finally Evelyn clutching her stomach protectively. Her face hardened instantly. Alexander, she said quietly, what exactly did you do? No one answered. William Harper slowly moved toward his daughter and gently placed his hands on her shoulders. Sweetheart, look at me. Evelyn finally broke completely at the sound of her father's voice. He thought the babies might not be his. William went utterly still. Even the storm outside seemed to pause for one terrible second. Then the older man slowly lifted his eyes toward Alexander Sterling, and for the first time in his life, Alexander realized he no longer looked at him like family. He looked at him like an enemy. The temperature inside Alexander Sterling's office seemed to drop 10 degrees after William Harper's final look. Rain hammered against the towering windows while lightning flashed across the Manhattan skyline, but nobody moved. Nobody even breathed properly. Evelyn stood near the sofa with tears streaking down her pale face, both hands protectively cradling the twins beneath her gown, while pain continued tightening across her lower abdomen in slow, dangerous waves. William Harper kept one arm around his daughter's shoulders, his blue eyes locked on Alexander with the controlled fury of a father realizing his child had been emotionally abandoned inside a marriage he once trusted. You investigated her? William asked quietly. The softness in his voice frightened the room more than shouting would have. Alexander swallowed hard. The board forced the issue. Do not insult me with excuses. William stepped forward slightly. You let strangers question my daughter's integrity while she carried your children. Rebecca Lawson remained near the desk scanning the divorce documents spread across the hardwood surface. Every page seemed to deepen the anger hardening across her expression. Alexander, she said carefully, these filings were prepared weeks ago. Alexander looked exhausted now. Cornered. I never finalized them. But you prepared them. Rebecca lifted the custody proposal slowly. You planned legal separation before your sons were even born. Chloe Bennett stood silently near the fireplace watching everything unravel around her like someone suddenly realizing the fire she started had become uncontrollable. Evelyn looked toward Alexander again through tears and heartbreak and disbelief. Were you ever going to tell me? Alexander finally met her eyes fully. I was trying to protect you from the board war until I understood who was behind the rumors. Evelyn shook her head weakly. You stopped protecting me the moment you believed them. The twin shifted sharply beneath her gown again, and she inhaled unevenly as another painful tightening spread through her body stronger than before. Rebecca noticed instantly. Evelyn, how far apart are the contractions? Evelyn blinked in confusion. I do not know. William's expression changed immediately from fury to concern. Sweetheart, sit down. No. Evelyn steadied herself against the sofa. I just need air. But the room suddenly tilted slightly beneath her feet. Alexander moved toward her automatically, instinct overriding pride, anger, everything else. Evelyn. She flinched again before he could touch her. That reaction visibly damaged him more than any accusation tonight. William stepped between them immediately. I will take care of my daughter. Alexander froze. Outside, thunder rolled deeply across the skyline while rain blurred the city lights beyond the glass walls into streaks of silver and gold. Rebecca suddenly looked up from the documents in her hands. Wait. Everyone turned toward her. She stared at one particular page with narrowed eyes. This filing date does not make sense. Alexander frowned. What? Rebecca walked quickly toward the desk lamp and lifted the separation agreement closer to the light. These papers were processed through Whitmore Legal Consulting before your authorization signature was added. Alexander's face hardened instantly. That is impossible. Rebecca shook her head slowly. No. It means someone moved the paperwork forward before you officially approved it. Silence spread again. Then all eyes shifted toward Chloe. She immediately stepped backward. Do not look at me. Rebecca's voice sharpened. Your doctor leaked confidential records. Your board circulated anonymous paternity rumors. And somehow legal filings moved before authorization. Chloe's calm composure finally cracked completely. I was not controlling everything. The room went still. William narrowed his eyes dangerously. Everything? Chloe realized her mistake too late. Evelyn stared at her through gathering fear. What do you mean, everything? Chloe looked toward Alexander almost desperately now. You told me the investigation would stay private. Alexander's expression darkened instantly. Private? Rebecca stepped closer. So you admit you were directly involved? Chloe's breathing became uneven for the first time all night. I never wanted this to happen. Then what exactly did you want? William demanded. Chloe looked toward Evelyn's stomach and whispered the answer almost like confession. The board believed the twins would shift control of Sterling Global permanently into the Harper family influence. Evelyn felt cold spread through her chest. Rebecca's eyes widened slightly as the pieces finally connected. This was never about an affair. Alexander slowly turned toward Chloe in disbelief. You manipulated the inheritance panic to gain control of the board. Chloe's silence confirmed everything. And at that exact moment Evelyn suddenly doubled over sharply as a stronger contraction hit her without warning. The room exploded into motion. Everything inside the Sterling penthouse office dissolved into chaos the moment Evelyn doubled over in pain. Rebecca Lawson moved first, instantly kneeling beside her while William Harper wrapped an arm around his daughter to keep her steady. Rain battered the towering glass windows so hard it sounded like the entire Manhattan skyline was trying to break inside. Breathe slowly, Rebecca said firmly. Evelyn, look at me. Evelyn nodded weakly, tears slipping down her cheeks while another contraction tightened across her stomach stronger than anything she had felt before. The twins shifted violently beneath the silk fabric of her gown, and panic spread through her chest like ice water. Something feels wrong, she whispered. Alexander Sterling was already reaching for his phone again with shaking hands. I am calling an ambulance. No, Evelyn gasped instantly. Not Whitmore Hospital. Alexander looked shattered hearing the fear in her voice when she spoke about the doctors he trusted. William's expression hardened immediately. Rebecca, call St. Catherine Medical Center instead. Rebecca nodded and stepped aside to make the call while Chloe Bennett remained frozen near the fireplace, her carefully built world collapsing around her in silence. Alexander moved closer carefully, every instinct pulling him toward his wife despite the wall now standing between them. Evelyn, please let me help you. She looked up at him through pain and heartbreak. I trusted you with everything. The sentence hit harder than any accusation that night. Alexander felt it physically. Because she was right. Somewhere between board meetings, inheritance clauses, stock pressure, and fear of losing control, he had allowed strangers to poison the one thing in his life that had ever been real. Evelyn Harper had loved him before he inherited billions. Before magazine covers. Before power changed the air around him. And he repaid that love with suspicion. Another contraction hit, and Evelyn gripped her father's hand tightly while trying to steady her breathing. Rebecca returned quickly. The ambulance is 10 minutes away. Thunder shook the windows again. Then suddenly Alexander's phone began vibrating nonstop. He glanced down at the screen and his expression darkened instantly. Rebecca noticed first. What is it? Alexander stared at the incoming flood of messages from Sterling Global executives. Emergency board notifications. Investor alerts. Media requests. Someone leaked the investigation files, he said quietly. Chloe's face lost all color. Rebecca stepped toward him sharply. Leaked to who? Alexander lifted his eyes slowly. The press. Silence crashed through the room. Then another phone buzzed. Williams this time. Headlines were already spreading across financial media. Questions about Sterling heirs. Internal paternity investigations. Anonymous sources tied to the Sterling board. $1 billion scandal rumors exploding across Wall Street in real time. Evelyn closed her eyes in devastation. Her unborn children were becoming public entertainment before they were even born. William looked ready to destroy someone with his bare hands. Get my daughter out of this building now! Alexander suddenly turned toward Chloe with terrifying clarity. You leaked it. Chloe shook her head. Immediately. I did not. Then who did? She hesitated 1 second too long. Alexander understood everything. The board had never intended to protect the company. They intended to control it. And now the scandal had escaped beyond anyone's control. Sirens echoed faintly below the skyscraper outside, growing louder through the storm. Rebecca moved to help Evelyn toward the elevator, while William stayed close beside her. Alexander instinctively stepped forward too, but Evelyn stopped him with only one look. That hurt more than losing the company ever could. She held her stomach carefully as the twins moved beneath her, 2 innocent lives trapped inside a war created by greed, fear, and power. The elevator doors opened with a soft metallic sound. William guided his daughter inside while Rebecca pressed the lobby button. Alexander stood frozen several feet away, watching the woman he loved leave him inch by inch. Evelyn, he said quietly. She paused but did not step out. Rainwater glimmered against the windows behind him, while Manhattan lightning flashed silver across the room. Alexander's voice broke for the first time all night. I never stopped loving you. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment through tears before answering softly. Love means nothing if a woman cannot feel safe carrying your children. The elevator doors slowly closed between them. Alexander remained standing alone inside the penthouse office while emergency sirens echoed through the storm below and financial alerts continued exploding across his phone screen. Sterling Global stock was already collapsing overseas. Board members were turning on each other. Reporters filled the hotel lobby downstairs. But none of it felt as devastating as the silence left behind after Evelyn Harper disappeared from his reach.